Palantir shares sliding for a sixth straight day, notching its longest losing streak since April of 2024. Now, before we get too upset about this, the stock is still the best performing stock in the S&P 500 this year by a lot. But it is down nearly 18% from its record high just hit last week. But Wedbush's Dan Ives says it is time to buy this pullback. In a new note today, Ives writes, quote, tech sell-offs are opportunities to own core winners and that the bull cycle will be intact for at least another 2 to 3 years. Joining us now, the aforementioned Dan Ives of Wedbush Securities. Dan, what do we make of the pullback on Palantir? Do you welcome it?
I mean, look, I think these pullbacks are almost healthy. I mean, that's been our view of Palantir. I mean, if you go back since, whatever, $10, $15, like, you're going to have these pullbacks. But I just continue to focus on the opportunity. And I think they're really transforming and disrupting software and tech. And it's my view, and I get the valuation, next 2, 3, 4 years, I think this is going to be $1 trillion market cap. They will grow into it. And they are the poster child of the AI revolution. The nervousness I get, but it doesn't in any way change our view fundamentally what's happened with the AI revolution, where Messi of AI Palantir sits.
All right, so $1 trillion, Dan, by the way, love your work. You know this. That's 3 times what it is now-ish. They're going to do, and I'm going to round up, $6 billion of revenue. What does that revenue line need to look like in order to justify $1 trillion valuation, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, guy, my view is that, and it's great to see it, you're ultimately going to be looking at 12, 15, 20 billion. My view, when you look out the next 3, 4 years for Palantir, and a free cash flow margin that could ultimately be 40, 50%. So I get the valuation today, but our whole view is when you have the 2 to 3 trillion that's going to be spent, I think Palantir, I mean, in 20, 30% of that, Palantir could win. So that's my view of it when you look out. And that's why pullbacks like this I get. But to me, it's not the time to run for the hills. It's actually, I view these as opportunities to own it as well as a lot of these other tech names.
So, Dan, to echo Guy's sentiment, you have been spot on all these buying the dips. But let's look more micro. Let's look more trading-wise. Is it a tailwind or a headwind that they get 55% of revenue from governments, with the bulk of that obviously being from the USA?
Yeah, I think it's been, to some extent, a tailwind foundationally speaking, because that's really how they've really become that golden child in AI, because they've taken that technology into the enterprise, AIP, and that's how it's all transformed in terms on the commercial side. But I do believe from a valuation perspective, you're going to get the value on what you do on the commercial side. But government, as we see transformations on sovereigns, we're seeing in the U.S., you're going to see it around the world. Palantir, along with NVIDIA and Microsoft, I mean, they're going to be some of the first calls. And I think that's not being factored into what I view as a sovereign as well as a commercial opportunity.
Dan, it's Karen. Thanks for being on with us. So aside from Palantir, NVIDIA and elsewhere, I would assume that same 2 to 3 year time frame would hold for those as well. How do you sort of think this plays out? Why do you get 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I mean 2 to 3 years is a minimum, because it's my view that ultimately this is the second inning of this game, and we've talked about is that the use cases on enterprise, they're multiplying, they're up 30, 40% even when we look back over the last few months. And you only have 4% of enterprises that have even gone down the path in the U.S. You think about what that's going to happen in Europe, eventually what's going to happen in Asia, ex-China. And that's why from NVIDIA to Microsoft to Palantir, to my view of Alphabet, as well as the software names, you look at autonomous, you look at names like Aqua. I mean, that's our thesis. Our thesis, it was 9 p.m. It's now 10:15 p.m. at the AI party. That party goes to 4 a.m. And I think these are always opportunities, even though the DJ could stop playing the music for, a few minutes.
You got the musical references, you had the Messi reference in there, but let me ask you this. Even Messi has bad games. Dan, what is the risk profile on Palantir?
Look, obviously, high-risk profile. If you have any hiccup, any speed bump, stock gets crushed. But Brian, my view is like that's why we spend so much time in the field in terms of what we see, and they're seeing, I think it's 10, 15 to 1 demand to supply relative to what they could do with no direct sales force. And that's why I think this will ultimately be $1 trillion company. I think CARP has the vision.